Claudia Cardinale has long been one of cinema's most magnetic presences, a performer whose screen aura blended strength, vulnerability, and an unmistakable Mediterranean elegance that helped define an era of European film, and much of the breathless chatter that has followed her name over the decades says as much about the culture that watched her as it does about Cardinale herself. Born in Tunis to Italian parents and rising to international fame in the late 1950s and 1960s, she became a symbol of modern womanhood at a moment when cinema was shedding old restraints and audiences were newly attentive to authenticity, confidence, and emotional complexity. Her collaborations with legendary directors such as Luchino Visconti, Federico Fellini, and Sergio Leone placed her at the center of landmark works like 8½, The Leopard, and Once Upon a Time in the West, films remembered not for provocation but for artistry, atmosphere, and enduring influence. Over time, however, publicity machines and tabloid framing often reduced her image to sensational headlines, promising scandal and shocking revelations to lure attention, even when the substance was simply the boldness of a woman owning her presence on screen. Cardinale herself repeatedly spoke about resisting objectification, insisting on being valued for her craft rather than for any fleeting spectacle, and her career choices reflected that resolve. She favored layered characters, complex narratives, and directors who trusted her intelligence. What truly startled audiences, in retrospect, was not exposure or controversy, but her refusal to be boxed into a single fantasy. She carried herself with a rare mix of glamour and groundedness, capable of commanding a scene with a glance or a pause, conveying inner lives that felt real and modern. As years passed, her legacy only deepened. Younger generations discovered her films and recognized a performer ahead of her time, navigating fame with quiet defiance and professional rigor. Discussions that once leaned on shock value now seem shallow compared to the fuller picture of an artist who helped reshape how women were seen in international cinema, less as ornaments, more as protagonists with agency and voice. In interviews and public appearances, Cardinale has emphasized dignity, independence, and the importance of telling meaningful stories, reframing old narratives that once chased clicks or whispers. Remembering her today is best done by returning to the films themselves, where her talent remains luminous and undimmed, reminding viewers that true impact comes from lasting work, not momentary headlines. Claudia Cardinale remains one of classic cinema's most captivating icons, celebrated far more for her talent and presence than for any sensational headlines that later tried to frame her image as shocking. Rising to fame in the 1960s, she brought strength, elegance, and emotional depth to unforgettable films like The Leopard, 8½, and Once Upon a Time in the West. What truly set her apart was her confidence and refusal to be reduced to mere spectacle, insisting instead on being recognized as a serious actress. Decades on, her legacy endures not through controversy,